I would quite like that because so few people get to that max level, and yeah, it should be good, but at the same time, I do think it should be a little bit more scaled in some sense.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool. I don't know,
Like a
like would a
perk,
skill tree even work? Yeah, like a perks.
like a
Yeah,
perk,
exactly.
yeah,
You
perk
choose this or
system.
choose that, but there's like a
That'd be sick.
downside. I don't know.
Yeah,
That would
I
be
like that.
really interesting if there was
I
like
like that.
pros and cons. Like either you lose something or maybe you lose the other option. Could be like a
Yeah.
cost. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be really interesting. Like
Yeah.
That's like old school RPGs where
yeah,
advantages can also be disadvantages. Yeah.
like
I
Yeah,
like
because I
that.
love those kind of things.
maybe you could like see better at night, but during the day you couldn't see as well. Like I don't know how they would make that work, but it's things.
Blinded at daylight.
Yeah.
Vampire perk.
Yeah. Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a continued focus on development of the game, patch note analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussions. My name is Church. I'm one of your hosts. I am a video editor for a Tarkov YouTuber named Airwing Marine.
I'm GigaBeef, a Tarkov YouTuber helping you guys get better at the game. And welcome back to the show. And today we are joined by AbneyDude, who is another YouTuber who creates some cool Tarkov videos. So yeah, I guess just let you introduce yourself a little bit on what you're what you're about. And I guess I always start off with how people got into content creation because it's always an interesting story. So feel free to tell that however way you feel.
All right. Hey everyone, AbneyDude here, like they said. Yeah, I've been creating Tarkov content for the past 8 months or so. Got into content creation just simply because I like Tarkov so much, and I had played so much, and I was teaching friends here and there, and I was like, why not just create content for everybody else as well? See how I do. I had some background in video editing when it came to like college and stuff afterwards. I'd always toy around with Adobe Premiere and After Effects and stuff like that. So just decided to try it out, and it's done pretty well so far. It's been a fun time.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's cool. I think, yeah, if you've got those kind of skills already, then that really helps, or at least just a background of some kind. Because I know for myself, I didn't really have that, which was a bit of a steep learning curve. But I'm quite fortunate. My sister's a graphic designer, so she could help me
Cool.
out with some bits and pieces at least
Nice.
about those things. But I knew nothing about Premiere or anything, so that's actually quite a nice thing.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean your channel's doing pretty well. I think where are you up to? About like 8K subs or something now at this point?
Yeah. Just a little over that.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely happy with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Especially just going for 8 months or whatever. It's just such a funny journey. Everyone goes through, there's a different experience each time trying to create like different kinds of content and testing stuff out and experimenting and things. But I see some of your vids pop up on my feed and stuff. And I think the important thing is at this point, even with a small sub count, some of your videos get like big viewership. So it shows you're doing something right, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's really weird. It's like some videos you put out, you really have no idea how they're gonna do. One of my best videos is like I did like shortcuts on customs, and it went into this wipe in like 120,000. I'm like, what the heck? It's like that was just one of my like just a simple video that I didn't think was gonna do anything, and whatever. The algorithm's a weird thing.
Yeah,
Just
it
gotta
really
roll
is.
with
And
it.
yeah, sometimes you just don't know what exactly people are going to be looking for. And some things just like they just hit the sweet spot. Like I remember I made one which was like budget kits kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I don't really have time this week to like fully script it. So I just did like a 30 minutes of me just like talking through random stuff. And it ended up doing really well. And I was like, really? Like of all the ones, like the one that I didn't actually put as much effort into, like, you serious?
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it does happen that way. But
That budget keyword is huge. People
yes.
love the budget.
Yes, it definitely is. It definitely is. Well, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on. We've had a little bit of a break from guests, as we were just discussing before the show, just because of Christmas and January and everything. People were busy and whatever, so it's nice to get some guests back on. But very quickly before we start properly, I guess we should just go through what has happened in the recent history of Tarkov news, which is not really that much. We've had a patch, which is pretty good. And there's mostly fixes for things, but there's been a couple of important bug fixes, such as we spoke about the shotgun damage stuff that was raised in the community, right?
I did see something on that on Veritas's Twitter. He put out a tweet, and because apparently he did some testing, and his conclusion was that, from what I remember hearing from the podcast that he does with Jesse, is that had to do something with like the reloading of the shells in your pockets and like moving them around. He didn't really go too much in depth, but he made it seem like that it wasn't what Erotic was saying. But regardless, the tweet he put out not too long ago was saying that he spoke to Nikita and it was not that specific bug. The moving the shells and it getting bugged out and shooting ghost bullets essentially. So I'm not sure what other shotgun damage bug there was in the game. Stuff like this is so concerning. I don't use shotguns that often, so maybe I'm not as affected. But
so what's the latest on that? I actually haven't caught up with the shotgun news. What is the current? I did see a Rocktick's video about the ghost first shot with the flechette or whatever, but what else came about that?
So I don't know, because essentially that bug that Erotic produced, Veritas was also able to produce it, but they came to different conclusions, if you will. And Veritas, the way he produced it was by moving shotgun shells around, and he thinks it has something to do with the client and server getting desynchronization. As Tower's saying in your chat, Giga, I'm just going to quote him right here. The client was desynced from the server. It was all manual loaded guns. It would cause spaces in the inventory to desync. You never actually reloaded in the server side, which was something that would actually happen with magazines back in the day. I mean, I remember, dude, on Factory once, I had an MP7. I was reloading, fighting this guy, and I was just unloading him. And he would not die. And I remember seeing he had a green armor. And I think a scav ended up killing him. And I was like panicking, like ETGing, like this guy will not die. I go to loot him. I thought he had the green Zuck, the class 6 Zuck. It was like, God, what was it? It was one of the 46 TB class 4 armors or whatever. But it was just like the most insane thing ever. And then when you exited the raid, you would see your mag and it would be full of ammo, So it seems that that's from what I can tell, that's been fixed. I haven't had that happen in a long time, but now it's sort of like shifted to these manually loaded guns and whatnot. So long story short, potentially, I think the bug is still in the game, but there was a different shotgun damage bug that they fixed, which I don't know what that is. But I don't know.
Well, that's something was fixed. I thought it was that, but I thought it was the actual bug that was fixed. So I don't really know.
But okay. I don't know. I'm basically just rehashing what Veritas tweeted out. So who knows, honestly.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, there was a couple of other things. I mean, nothing was like super important. I mean, there's the drop down bug actually, which is I guess kind of important. So
yeah,
you jump, you make a sound. You fall off the ledge, you don't make a sound. Now when you fall off the ledge, you make a sound. It matters, it matters. It stops people from just scuttling around the map, falling off cliff faces.
So that's weird. I never heard anybody mention that, but I did that exploit video about 3 weeks ago and put it in there. And then I started hearing some talk about it, and then they fixed it. I was like, maybe they saw it, but I was like, that's awesome, because that's been in the game since the beginning. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you never know what they're looking at and things. It's like it is funny because I did a whole thing about like magazine mechanics at one point, and then they like changed the rates on the mags, and I was like, I wonder. It's like you never know. You never really know. You just never really know. You can't hand in full containers anymore, either to quests or to the hideout. I feel like this was fixed in the past and came back, but I don't know. Now you can't accidentally put your entire mag case with all of your good mags in if you're trying to make a scav junk box, for example, which is kind of nice. It just says you can't do it, which is good. And my favorite one off the list, which I picked out in particular, I don't know if there was any important ones, Church, that you liked, but I really like this one. Fix the ability to become invisible whilst using the AGS grenade launcher as a scav. That's like the best bug ever. Can you imagine?
No, it's the worst bug ever. That sounds terrifying.
Superpowers. That's actually insane.
That's wild.
My goodness. Yeah, was there anything else that that I missed off that list that was actually important? I think 'cause there was a whole bunch of stuff, just like looking through walls and scavs sliding in position. Oh, I think that the lying down, standing up bug might be fixed, supposedly.
Supposedly, I I think I heard word of mouth that the prone, insta prone is still there. But
Mm.
I can't say I can confirm or deny. It's just word of mouth. So
I haven't played in the past few days. Are they still doing the instant crouches and stuff? The scavs
I don't
and
think
raiders?
so. But
That would be nice.
My stream
The-
today, I didn't. I don't think I had any,
mhm.
okay.
so that is good. I had a lot of them running around randomly. The scavs running around all over the place. There was one scav that I really thought was a PMC just because of the sound of the movement, and then it was actually just a scav roaming about. It was weird because he was kind of ran and then stopped almost straight away. I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to if you're just hearing. Sometimes it is actually really hard to tell these days.
Yeah.
If you're looking at them, it's a different story. But just from audio only, because they do the kind of walk stop and then stop for a
Yeah.
while and then do one short running burst occasionally if there's something in the way or whatever. And I was near the power switch room in customs because I was trying to do the daily where you have to go out of 013 3 times. That's the daily that I had.
Okay.
So I was going to the power switch room a bunch of times and I heard a guy outside. And then there was actually another PMC. So I don't know. I don't know whether that was the scav or the PMC. Actually, to be fair, I'm not 100% sure. But I think that was it in terms of the patch. Oh no, okay. I keep remembering stuff. There was one other thing, which was the jump height in general. The jump height has just been
Oh
nerfed across the board,
right.
right? And it's actually really quite annoying,
Yeah.
to be honest. I don't really know whether that needed to be fixed at the top end or something, but it affects even at the low end, like on Scav. And I've been playing a lot of Factory Scav. Scav Factory. If you start over by what's the best way to describe it? It's the room off of gate 0. If you're there's the big weapons box in the middle of the room between kind of the crates and the way up into the office up on the
Yeah.
big metal gantry, and there's a big black weapons box there just in the middle of the room. The railing next to that, I cannot jump over as a scav anymore at all. Sideways, backwards, forwards, whatever. I cannot jump over it, and I tried. Admittedly, I'm actually not the most dexterous when it comes to jumps in Tarkov, to be honest. But I could get over that before because I've done that jump a million times in last week. And after they patched it, I cannot get over it anymore, which is kind of painful, if I'm
Yeah,
honest.
I think it's annoying that they make these kind of changes without the solution being in place, which is going to be vaulting, mantling, that kind of stuff. And to limit their maps are designed around jump height and stuff. So you have specific things that people have been able to jump since the beginning. And then they make these nerfs to I don't know, maybe it was an accident, I don't know, but it seems so odd because now just like simple rocks and certain things you jump onto, you just get stuck on them, but there's no other solution like vaulting or mantling. So it's just kind of a weird change to me.
Yeah. It would be so good if we had vaulting in. I remember back playing when I used to play PUBG, and that game didn't have any vaulting mechanics in. And then actually relatively quickly they did put them in the game. But I mean the PUBG maps and landscape is like so much simpler. But it just completely changed the way that the movement felt and the way the game felt. It's like in Tarkov, you still get those moments like you're coming through the wall in customs, entering into sort of the dorms kind of territory from the northeast side of the map, and there's that fallen over piece of wall if you're coming the other way and you're like kind of stuck on it and you're like, oh god, and it's like about 6 centimeters tall and you're like, seriously. So yeah, that kind of it can't come soon enough. But I haven't really heard that many people talking about it. I haven't really heard Nice Guy talking about vaulting or anything. I don't know where that is in the plan. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I think, at the beginning of, I think they were talking about it at the beginning of this wipe, like it's not coming anytime soon in terms of like, I don't know if it's going to be in the next major wipe or whatever, but yeah, it's going to be really nice. It's going to change the flow of how everything is. And, honestly, they're going to have to, I think one of the things holding them back is every map's going to have to add like a mantling, I don't know what you call it in game dev, but like every surface is going to have that mantling thing. So they're going to have to add that on every single certain area on every map, and I could only imagine how long that's going to take.
Yeah, exactly. It's difficult. Although, that's going to be quite hard. But I'm also surprised with the number of animations and things that they added in for all the weapons durability systems and the jamming and whatever. So when they put their mind to it, they really can crack out some amazing things. I'm still astounded by the level of detail of the jamming system, but there are weapons nerd group of people at the end of the day, so it kind of makes sense.
That's true. That's true. They have this game so advanced with all this certain stuff, but then you're just still hopping around like a bunny. Like it feels like it's out of place. So I can't wait till they add it.
Yeah, no, it should be good.
I think one of the more annoying things for me was, well, besides the fact that it wasn't an official patch note, was that I don't know what was changed, because I didn't actually notice any jumping issues. The issue I noticed was just climbing over tiny, literally a trash bag. There's a trash bag, third floor resort, West Wing, where you can walk on top of it and you can see across like these bookcases, furniture, and whatever. You get like a sight line. And what you used to be able to do, at least from what I can remember, you could just like silently walk up that and then slowly stand up. But now you just can't. You can't even full speed, I don't think. So I just had to like give up my stealth and just jump, and it's like someone else on Twitter there was a thread about this, and they were like saying same thing, like these spots they used to be able to just walk up, they could no longer walk up, you had to jump up, which is like interesting, because that like there's usually like this thing where either staircases in some games, like I'm thinking of Counter-Strike, like what is it, like Dust 2, the double doors like to your right, what is that called? It's like opposite of cat. Come on, you guys play Counter-Strike. No,
I'm trying to which side are you referring to from?
So let's say you're CT. Let's say you're CT, right? To your right, when you go through double doors. What is that called with the staircase that goes up?
I don't know the competitive names for the.
Well, anyways,
tunnels, tons,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, probably. Anyways, they're staircases, right? Like just like brick staircases. But actually, in the map, like in the 3D space game design, it's a slope, because otherwise your character would just be like bobbing up and down, so they make it smooth. So like, did they do something to the maps to make those like objects and those entities like blockier, or like I don't know, was it something to do with like your movement speed, or like I don't know. It's a weird change that they did, and I don't really know what exactly they did either, because I mean, as you guys said, jump height's been changed, but I haven't really had any issue jumping. Then again, I am level 33 straight because I've been cheesing it, which I want to talk about later. But anyway,
what level are you?
33. I'm not that high, but
okay. Still pretty
They're
good.
much higher than me. As per our last discussion, I think I'm like level 15 strength or something. I'm like, I don't know, because I'm just usually play underweight, and I'm pretty chilled about going full YOLO. So it's Church was already higher than me to begin with, and then he's been delving into the dark arts. So, we will hear about that, I'm sure, shortly. I mean, if there's nothing else about the patch, then there was one thing that I wanted to jump into before we go into just like some of the other topics, which was one of the tweets that was put out by BSG themselves directly, which was about the most popular types of ammo, the most popular types of helmets, and the most popular types of armor, which is kind of cool. I thought it was really cool when I first saw it, and the more I read it and the more I looked at it, I was like, this is actually like less and less cool the more I think about it, which was almost a bit of a shame in some ways, because part of the problem was we don't really know what time frame this was over. And I think, well, from looking at the stats, and given that they produced it now, I'm pretty sure that it's just going to be like from day one of the wipe to now. And so you've got this kind of like weird interplay of, it's an average of all the rounds. So let's think about the ammo chart for a minute, which basically says 11.4% of all rounds, or it says the most popular types of ammo, which I'm interpreting to be the number of rounds fired in a particular raid, right? Because that's what I think it would be, as opposed to rounds like brought into raids, because that's or purchased or something. Maybe it's purchases too. It could be purchases instead. Actually, I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, there's a few ways it could have been done. 11% was 762 PS, Fair enough. It's a good round. 9.2%, 9 by 19 PST. Okay. 5.3%, 545 PS. Kind of interesting. 5.2% M855 for 556, and then BT is 5%, BP is 4%, M80 is 4%, 56A1 is 4%, etc. So it's sort of like, it's the rounds that people tend to use. There's a couple of weird ones in there, like 545 PS. Like, are people buying that much 545 PS? I'm not sure. 55 people did actually buy quite a lot of that. But anyway, the fact that it looks to me like it was from the beginning of the wipe anyway means you've got this weird average across the whole of then and now. So if 3.9% of people were using 762 BP, well, does that mean that now it's like loads of people are using it because nobody was using it at the start, kind of thing, and that's ramped up, and now the average is 4%, combined with the fact that it depends on how it was done, because at the beginning of the wipe there are always just more people playing, so it's like more weighted towards the early game anyway, depending on how you did the stats. So like the more I read through, I was just like, damn, I just don't know whether this is actually of any use really. And I think there was a tweet that was it Trey who posted it or something, and he was like, I find it very hard to believe that more people use 76251 M993 than either 545 BS, 762 M62, and there was another one, like 4.6 FMJ for the MP7. I don't think that was necessary. Oh no, 762 by 54 PS. That was it. Which is kind of like, M993 has like 2.2%, and then BS was like 1.8, M62 was 1.7, and and even like LPS was like 1.5%. So I just don't really know what to make of that, honestly. Like, I tried to make heads or tails of the ammo chart, but it's yeah.
So I didn't really delve too deep into the charts, but I guess it can't be based on purchases because you can't purchase M993, correct?
That's a very good point.
So it has to be shots fired, I'd assume.
Yes,
that's weird. I haven't looked at the chart. I'm gonna pull that up. Wow, it's on their Twitter.
No, that's a very good point actually. That's good. So that rules out some of the ways that this could have been done. That is very interesting. That's very
that's weird. That's weird because it's almost, and it's probably not a percentage. It's not like the percentage is probably like in terms of how many times it's been shot rather than per person, because I would assume that like right now those stats would be so different. I'm sure some of those top rounds aren't even being used right now by like half the player base.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is definitely, that's definitely an interesting one. But yeah, and there's a couple of others too. There's like the helmets one and the armors one as well. I think the armors one is probably the most interesting, but the helmets one is quite funny because basically Ratnik's like 14%, Peter's helmet 13, which is fine, and then Ulax as number 3 at 6.4%. Very, very popular, extremely popular. But the one that I pointed out actually on my Twitter, which I thought was quite funny, was the ULAC in tan. It's like 4% usage of all helmets. So this is like usage of all helmets. It's not like 4% of players are wearing the tan ULAC. It's like not every player wears a helmet. So it's if you encounter a helmet, so if you encounter a helmet, that player has a 4% chance of having a tan ULAC on. But I was like, 4% of people are pretty crazy, because that helmet is like, it's like having the big bullet symbol targeted on your head. I understand the black ULAC, that makes sense, and it's expensive, but it does at least do what it should be. Whereas the Coyote tan ULAC, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. So lots of people apparently using that one, which is very confusing to me.
I wonder if that's because it gets dropped by the rogues a lot, and a lot of people farming those. Maybe, I don't know.
Could also be that. It could be that in theory. I'm not 100% sure. And then actually, let me pull up. There was I had a little note here, because I added them together because I thought this was at least interesting in some sense. Bear with me for 2 seconds, because the last one was the actual armors themselves, which 9.5 was the rat rig. 8. This is kind of what made me think that it must be from the beginning to now. 8% Packer, right? Because everyone uses it at the beginning, right? And then 7.7% the MMAC, the new rig, which again makes sense. It's very, very good. The barter is very cheap. Icom Troopers at 6%, Ulays at 5.5, etc. So it then goes down into all the others. But if you tabulate them together, like I did, and add up all the percentages, it's class 2 is 12%, class 3 is 11%, class 4 is 57%, class 5 is 13%, and class 6 is 4%. Basically, so I mean, it's not really a surprise that class 4 is well over half of all armor used in the game. But it's kind of funny that the class 2 and class 4 are both more than class 3. Like class 3 is basically just skipped, which
Yeah, that's
we've
crazy.
talked about before. People go from the packer and then they start buying the rat rig and the MMAC like straight away. And class 3 is just like bypassed basically.
Well, there's not even that many class 3s, right? I mean, well, maybe I should say, actually, there's got to be more class 3s than there are class 2s, right? Because class 2, you only got P.A.K.A. and
There's only 3, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, the
There's
P.A.K.A., the green one, and the M2
and the white one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
there's
what?
a couple ceramic level 3s, right? Like, I literally don't even know the name of them because I do skip them because they're heavy and they're not worthwhile.
Yeah,
I know the
exactly.
press armor. I like that one. But
Oh yeah. That's a pretty decent one. Oh, and then what's the other one that I'm thinking of? There's one that repairs pretty well. It's blue. I can't even think of what it is right now.
Oh, the Karasa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's
that
decent.
one's not too bad. That's not too bad, and it drops on scavs quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that it just goes to show that, right? It's like class 3 is just skipped basically, and people just go straight to class 4. I don't know. I'm still torn about class 4 as to whether you do get it too early and there's too much of it and it's too cheap. I think it probably is too cheap still. I don't think necessarily the availability is wrong, because I actually think class 5 now is in a really good place, because I was worried at first because I thought that there was going to be too freely available once people got to those traders, but because of the way that the barters have changed and the way that people value those barters have changed, understandably, which is fine, but it's kind of shifted everything up around that. So the Redoute M, which I used extensively last wipe, and it was about 130k, same with like the Gen 4 mobility. Those are 250k on Ragman. I was like, no one's ever going to buy this, but then all of the others have kind of jumped up. So it's expensive to buy the Current because the diaries are now more expensive. So that's like 120k or something. And then in the context of that, plus where the other armors that are sort of in the mid tier, it starts to kind of look, it's okay. Like I've been pushing the tactech heavily, and it seems like either they've changed the number that you can get per loop, or there's less people buying it, which I don't think that's necessarily true, but it does seem to be available quite a lot now. But it's still, even if you get a good deal on the inputs, it's still 160k. So it's it's a decent price, and which is why I think that the class 4s could maybe be due a bit of a tweak upwards. I think on Ragman they're like 70,000, but you never need to pay that because you just buy the Rat Rig or the MMAC or the Strand Hog, or there's too many options. Or or the NA M2, which is like insane value. That's like my favorite class 4 rig at Ragman 3, because especially when you go in and you do like the chain of barters, you get like the 3 chainlets, you swap them for the 3 face visors, and then you buy for like 3 glasses super cheap for like 8k each, and you're like, dude, I managed to get this armor. It's like 38,000 rubles for this thing, and it's like it's better than all the others. I love that stuff so much. Yeah, I'm a real nerd. Chat was accusing me of being a real nerd today. Yeah, it's just so good. It's so good. Yeah, so that was the stats. I mean, I love it when they post stuff like this, because you can always like glean something of interest out of it, even if it's a little bit jumbled up, because we've had them post things about scav karma and how many PMCs and people were killed, and you can kind of work out like the average survival rate of a player and stuff like this. Like if you delve in, you can always like get some interesting information out of it. But yeah, this one was it was a bit mixed. It was a bit mixed, and the time frames maybe a little bit too long to really get enough out of it. But it's interesting stuff nonetheless, for me anyway.
Yeah.
I would love to see.
Love the data.
Love to see a snapshot of like this past month. That would be really interesting.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if they did kind of like monthly breakdowns on the data or something. I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I would definitely love that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So, next topic. Actually, I have this is gonna throw everything for a curveball, but I had a question for you two. And earlier you were talking about your channel, Abney, and how you got started, and you had the customs jump video that you really didn't expect to go off, and it did really well, and it's still doing really well. And Giga, you had similar stories, and my question to you guys is, do you find it difficult to sort of like be creative, but in a sense that I want to be creative, but I want to perform well? also in favor of the YouTube algorithm. And I guess like what's sort of like the thought process or the struggles or how do you like overcome that? Because I can see how it's like you can get in sort of like a mental block, but then all of a sudden you just like have essentially a throwaway video. I mean, not that you know did any lazy work on the video, but it's just like, oh whatever, I'll just put it out, and then it just like people just gobble it up like it's gold. You know, like how like what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I mean, I guess I don't mind. Do you want to go first? Like, you can go
Yeah,
first
yeah,
if you
sure.
want.
So I could definitely yeah, that's definitely happened to me before. And you know, even the amount of times it's happened and then I still put the video out, and you know, like I'll come up with all the sorts of, because if you've seen some of my videos, it's kind of all over the place. I do some tutorials, I do some fun stuff, I do some challenges and stuff like that. And I really just like making whatever I feel like making, which
Mhm.
that comes, you know, that comes in like obviously my tutorial stuff. Tarkov's a learning game and people need to learn. So those ones do well. But some of the creative ones or the fun ones, they may not do as well. So it may like hinder my motivation to do those kind of challenges or do fun stuff. But I know I want to mix that stuff in because I don't always want to do tutorials forever. I always want to have tutorials, but so I would definitely say that sometimes depending on how well I think they're gonna do is kind of depends on what I make. So or will kind of dictate what I make in the end. But I try to do what I like, you know, what's fun, and just go from there. So definitely does have the algorithm definitely does have a play in my head sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like from my perspective, you've kind of got there's like a few elements to it.
Yeah.
It's tricky because there's lots of inputs to like what ends up becoming a video or what doesn't end up becoming a video. I mean, the way that I usually start with this stuff is I have a Google Docs or I have a Google spreadsheet basically, and anytime like anything interesting like crosses my mind, whatever, I just write it down. It doesn't really matter what it is. It could be anything. It could be just like random stuff, and I'm just like, oh, this is interesting, or this is interesting, or this is interesting, and I just kind of write them down in a big list, and then when I'm thinking about, okay, what do I want to do next? And I just kind of like read through the list. It sort of gives me ideas. And a lot of my stuff tends to be from recent-ish experience. So I kind of think, okay, well, I'm done with this now. Now I want to look at this. And it depends on whether there's a particular mechanic that I'm interested in learning about. Because a lot of the time I find that there's things in the game that I want to learn about that I haven't spent the full time looking at yet, but I want to. And so that sort of process of like me learning and understanding something in particular, like the durability thing, that ends up just becoming its video. It's like the video becomes kind of like the process of me trying to like just explore this particular topic because I don't know what the answer is when I'm starting making the video, but the journey to the answer is what matters. And then there's other ones which is kind of like, okay, well, I think this is good because I've been using it or because of this, that, and the other factor. So I'm gonna put it out there. But then there's kind of like there's like two overlays over the top of this, I would say. The first one being, oh, it's less about like the YouTube algorithm, like in inverted commas. It's kind of like where do I think the broad like the player spectrum is from like people who are level 1 to like level 70 or something. Where do I think everybody is, and where do I think like the maximum like value is for people within that grouping? And how does that fit with my audience too? Because like due to level 70 are not watching my vids, so you have to think about that, like who's actually watching and who will this get sent out to in the first place. And so that kind of like it plays sort of hand in hand with the algorithm, I suppose, because it's like, well, more people are going to be watching it, so more people will click on it because it's interesting to more people, so the algorithm will like it. But at the same time, it's also thinking from the same element of how can I provide value or help or assistance or something interesting for the widest variety of people. So those two things are kind of like it's like, yes, it's the algorithm, but it's also like, oh, this is also a good thing. But then sometimes it's like, well, I want to make something that's slightly off from what I think might be like the optimum, because it's basically like, there's like a meta fit for the video that you want to make.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just like, I don't want to make that video, so I'll make something that's what I want to make, but it still kind of fits into those categories. Like I actually had the worst like dislike ratio I have ever had on any video. And to be fair, and it's actually not that bad, right? Because it's not, it's a Tarkov tutorial video, but the M4 video that I put out, was probably the worst timing of any video that I could ever have made, because I had created it like 4 days before releasing it, right? I'd like finished the edit. So I was already scripting it like a week before, finished the edit, and I had the gameplay, whatever. And then like 2 days before release, literally everybody took their collective bats and just pummeled 556 all over Twitter, all over YouTube, all over Reddit. And my video is just like, guys, you can use the M4. And everyone was just like, you suck, 556 sucks, this video sucks. Like, use the SCAR, use the MDR, use the SR25, use any other gun other than this. The M4's dead, dude. It's like old news. Like, what are you on about, basically? And I was like, whatever. I had fun using it. So if you want to use it and like you want to do peacekeeping mission, whatever, then like here's the video for it. It's fine. But I kind of like I could see that coming in the build up to it, and I was just like, wow, it's made now, so off it goes.
Oh man.
And then the other overlay for it is there's some things that I really, really, really want to make, but it's going to take me like 20 hours to do the research, and so I won't make it because I just can't at the moment. I'd love to have more time dedicated doing that stuff, and that most of those ones come with like testing with people who are willing to do it, people in the community who've offered before to say, I'll help you test this and blah, blah, blah. But these things, they just take ages. You have to organize them. You have to get all the footage from like multiple people, like testing armor and ammo and this stuff. And I'd love to do it, but like, I just can't. And so there's that time overlay as well of like, how long is this video going to take for me to make as well to do that. But I would say broadly, I make the stuff that I want to make. I find it quite fun, just like, making the right thing at the right time as well. Like trying to time the videos is part of what I kind of enjoy about like the strategy of it, I suppose, because it's kind of like, as I said, it's like helping as most people as that you can at the time. And I see people, and it's fair enough. Some people, they all rush at the beginning of the wipe to put out the meta builds, but like I never bother with that because like no one really needs a meta build at the start. So I wait until later, because then people are thinking, oh, I wonder what the best recoil is on this gun now that I've got level 3 and 4 traders, and I'm just like, here you go, here it is. Because that's when people are asking the question. People aren't really asking the question on day one. So I kind of enjoy that strategy anyway, just in and of itself. So that sort of comes sort of naturally, I suppose, because I think it's quite cool. But yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to hear both of you talk, and I feel like I need to go back and rewind, and that I missed some important stuff there. But yeah, because one of the things that sometimes I feel like happens is, working with Airwing and sort of behind the scenes is like, we'll produce a video and, it'll be really good, right? Or it'll do really good by the algorithm. And it's like, how can we recapture that success into another video? And it's like, I don't know. It's just like a weird thing. It's kind of like you said, like with the meta, like, back in the earlier YouTube days, one of the YouTube's metas was reaction gameplay videos. People were just like reacting to gameplay or reacting to clips. That was like a whole meta phase. And I guess Tarkov has like a bit of that. And then it sort of like puts you in a weird spot where like if you can't like, like reproduce it or I guess, I don't know. It's just like sometimes there's like this weird game of like chasing the, you guys like this content, you guys want this content, it's like, okay, fine, I'll give you more of this content, but then if it doesn't perform as well, and that was your goal from the get-go, was like, let me get the most performance I can out of this video or whatever, then it's like, now that's not happening. Like, I don't know, there's like some weird stuff going on, and it's such a weird place to navigate because you can get in like this mental block. It's like, well, I don't want to do something new because my goal is to get this big view count on this video. So it's like, how do you navigate that space?
Yeah, it's tricky.
I was gonna just say there's one thing that we didn't really talk about, and there's the topic of whatever you're making the video about, but there's one thing that I feel like is so big, and that's the thumbnail. I feel like the thumbnail makes all the difference in my head. So like that's what I always try to think about. Sometimes even before I make the video, I'll make the thumbnail because like I mentioned before, I do have some graphic design background and it's relevant to my job right now. But it's like I think about how people will click on this video, and sometimes I feel like it's not even the topic, it's just how interesting the thumbnail is if people click on it or not. And so that's one thing that I always think about before I create the video. Like, how am I gonna pose this video? And Giga, yours are always so consistent, but I kind of did some experimenting throughout a few months and trying to find my style, my thumbnail style and stuff like that. But just how I can make things more interesting. Like, if you've ever delved into the Rust community and seen their thumbnails, it's literally like masterpieces, like just actual artwork as their thumbnails, and it's just so crazy. But nobody in Tarkov really does that except maybe like Fair TX and some of the more cinematic YouTubers. But yeah, it's more like your typical gun screenshots and stuff like that right now. But
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, one fun thing about my channel is that you can, like, I'm not a graphic designer. I never have been. I'm not an expert in that stuff whatsoever. I spend some, I sometimes I do the thumbnail at the end, but it is important, and I do try to think about, like, whether it's going to be good or not, whatever. And I do spend time like tinkering with them and whatnot. But what's quite funny is if you look back through my channel, you can basically see like the entire history of like me and my Adobe Suite skills changing as time goes on, because you can go right back to the beginning, and the thumbnails are like atrocious. They're like so bad at the beginning, like really, really terrible. And you can see me experimenting right at the beginning, like 2 years ago when I first started the channel.
Though.
So it's quite funny, yeah. And the same with the video editing stuff too. But it's like, the thumbnail and the title, it's like the wrapper around the chocolate, right? The candy inside needs to be tasty, but the wrapper has to be inviting, otherwise no one's going to buy it, right? It's like it's the marketing around the product. It's just the way things work, unfortunately. And I've kind of like found a style for me that works, that I can do, that doesn't take too long, especially with the gun ones. I spend much more time on the ones that aren't the weapons ones, because like the weapons ones, I've kind of got a formula that I think people like kind of know, that you after you've watched enough, right? You can look at a thumbnail and you know who's created the video. You don't even need to read the author, right? You can just tell just by literally looking at the thumbnail whose video it is, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I think that I've probably got to that stage with the weapons ones, especially for like my regular audience. Like, they'll see it and they know with that particular font and the way that the thing's edited, then it's probably one of mine, which is cool. But like the other ones, I spend like ages, because I find that quite difficult. I find the thumbnail probably one of the worst parts of creation for me personally, just because like I'm just not really an artistic kind of person. Like, I'm much more heavily on the science and the numbers, and trying to create like a beautiful thumbnail for people, I find quite difficult. But it's very interesting, because what Church and you were saying, Abney, is that I don't actually think there was a few metas we've gone through, even like they're short little mini metas. We had like the low recoil stuff with like the rounds and like minimizing recoil on different weapons. There was kind of a meta for people making videos on that. I don't actually think we're necessarily in a meta right now. There seems to be, it's gone a bit more sporadic. It's like everyone's just kind of gone back to doing the stuff they usually do. But thumbnails, there definitely is a meta appearing, and there's the people doing the 3D graphical thumbnails. And there's like, I mentioned Trey before, but he's one of the guys who's is he called? There's a guy called like Chocolate something, and there's another guy called like Penguin.
Not
I think there's a couple of guys.
Yeah, Penguin,
not
and
him.
Chocolate.
And there's the
Eggnog.
other guy, Eggnog, yeah. And they're making like 3D thumbnails for various people. Yeah, exactly. And I think this all got started by, well, sort of, or maybe the first person that I saw doing this anyway was Swamp Fox. It's different. It's not the same style as what people are doing now, but actually paying a graphic designer or a graphic artist to like create just both thumbnails for each one. And it's like, here's a kind of cartoon style, I suppose, which is his own thing, which is cool. But that attracted a lot of attention to his channel when he first started doing it, because it was very, very different. And that's kind of what these guys have, is that sort of thumbnail meta is kind of forming. So it's interesting that you said that. But yeah, like, this is its own whole world of craziness. So we'll see where it goes.
Even besides that though, there's also the videos that do so well that's just literally a screenshot of the game. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
It's literally just in-game screenshot, and it's like a little 30-40 second video, and I'm just like, dude, that's crazy. It's like,
I think one of the best performing videos that I've seen, because it keeps getting
it's like Tarkov in 30 seconds or something like that. Like, I don't know.
Well, there's one from those ones do amazingly well. Yeah, those shorts. But there's one called Suppressed Sniper by Anton. It's got like 1 million views from like 2 years ago, and it keeps getting shown to me all the like constantly. The YouTube desperately wants me to watch this video, and it's just like the SV98 mid reload, and it just says suppress sniper at the top, and that's it. It's very, very simple.
Dude, yeah, there's still a big audience that likes the simple thumbnails, and I can't do those because then it wouldn't even match with my channel. So it's like they're just clicking on it because it looks like basic thumbnail, but I have to have some sort of theme going or it drives me nuts. So I have to stay away from it. But
yeah,
it does work.
I will say that video did inspire me a little bit when I made the VPO215 thumbnail, and I called mine. I just literally had the picture of the gun and just called it Budget Sniper, and that was the one that I made this wipe, and that's got 140k views. So just saying, it seemed to work.
I gotta look at that because I do remember that video, but I didn't remember the thumbnail. So
and it's quite straightforward, but it's similar to the style of the other ones I do. But it's I had that in the back of my mind. I was like, if I put that in the name, like on the screen, it's kind of like a similar thing. Maybe it'll work, and it seemed to. So I don't know, man. It's such a crazy thing. You're always second guessing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But that's what's fun. That's what's so fun about it. It's like a whole nother challenge in itself.
Exactly. It's got its own learning curve on top of the Tarkov learning curve. It's like this whole nother world of extra things.
Right.
So yeah, Church, does
now that was something that popped in my head earlier when Abney was talking, and it came back, and I was like, my brain is sporadic. So transition. Have any of you done any videos in regards to strength leveling? Because I've seen a couple of videos circulate recently.
I don't think I have. I did one about leveling skills in general, but that was a while ago, and it was mostly focused around like vitality and stuff because that was like the hideout blockers, but never around strength. But this is the thing, I've never really researched it, so I'm not really an authority on it. So I haven't ever made a video on it. It's like the reason why I've never made an Interchange map guide. It's the one basic map that I've never made a guide to because I'm awful at that map. So I can't tell anyone else about it.
I hate it. It's so dark.
Oh no, I'm alone. Just me and Killa.
What kind of monitor do you have? Because I go blind on that map.
Well, dude, to be fair, I've been playing in the dark recently because it's the only way you can see. It feels like
you turn all the lights off.
Yeah, it's like, dude, just the monitor. Dude, the map's already pitch black. Like it's not even hurting my eyes. It's just like a dim glare on my face.
Interchange player metas is just shut your shades, turn
get blackout current,
put your blinders on because that's the only way you're seeing the map.
Dude, it's rough actually. I was talking about with my buddies the other day, and it's like ever since they did the power update where you can flip the switch that would turn on the power, they reworked the lighting and the map as a whole. Like I guess it's like the global illumination. I don't know. I was talking to someone about it too as well. And it's like it's just really rough, man. It's just like there's like a gray film and then there's fog on the map for whatever reason. Like it's such a poor experience. I hope they rework it because I love like the structure of the map, like fighting in the mall, dude. There's just like oh man, you could just like these rotations you could do. I love it, but
yeah, I agree. I mean, imagine the lighting actually seeing into rooms, seeing around you, and it would actually be an awesome experience to play that map. But there's just so many corners to hide in. As soon as somebody hears you, they're going to sit in the dark corner and wait for you. And it's just like the whole time I'm playing that map, I'm trying to focus so hard, I'm getting a headache just like trying to focus so hard on seeing, and that's just not how I want to play the game. It's crazy. And I agree, it's right around when they did the switch where the lighting is affected by the power. That's when it got even worse. So that was always like people were saying, oh, they're doing a lighting update this wipe, and they made it worse. So I was like, oh no, I can't play this map.
I play Interchange in such a bad way. I literally just roam around the outside like it's terrible. I genuinely, and then like I dip in the inside to do something, and then I come straight back out again. And like I have actually had some okay fights outside. Like it's kind of fun around the sort of the scav encampment bit up by the bridge over at Power Station. And I'm just like, oh, I don't go in the mall. No, I don't go in there. I might fight around in the back section of Goshan maybe, but the actual mall itself, like, oh god.
Because lighting or what?
Yeah, because of lighting, I can't see anything, and I don't want to change my all of my stuff and all my post FX to just play that one map. I'm just not going to play there.
Yep. I have in my friend group, one of the guys, that's the reason why he won't go to that map, is because he doesn't want to sit there and calibrate. And what's even worse about it is if you try to use NVGs, the lighting's like in that weird zone, or perhaps it's not like the lighting level, but the map's global illumination. I don't know, but they're like hardly like there's some spots that you can use them in, but for 90% in Interchange, you just can't use. You can't see anything. So and then it's like, oh, you just use your flashlight, but the flashlight, there's like a gray mist fog, like you can't see. You just can't see on the map, and it's. I understand everyone's pain, but jumping back to original question about strength.
Yes.
And I asked you guys. So I saw a video from, I'm gonna say his name wrong, but it's like Ragnar. I don't know how to say his name. But he had like a guide on leveling, I think, strength and endurance, and the tech he featured, I guess, or I don't know if you call it an exploit, but essentially how the calculations work, how it calculates the skill for strength and endurance at least, is once you finish your sprint, then the game calculates all that distance travel and then applies the points. And so how that works is at the start of a raid, you don't have any skill exhaustion, which for those that didn't know, there's this mechanic called skill exhaustion. At the start of a raid, you get like 129% bonus to leveling skills. And then after a certain threshold, it drops to like, what is it? 100%, and it drops to like 70.
It's like 70 and goes down, and it goes down to like 60 for a while, and then 30, and then I think it does actually get to 0 for some of them.
Yeah, it can get to like 0 or 4%, things like this. And so essentially what you can do, you pop stems to extend your stamina bar, right? Like SJ6, that will give you more stamina and also regen stamina, so you can sprint for really long distance. So start a raid, you pop that, you get full stamina, and you just sprint and just keep sprinting. Just keep sprinting. Don't hit any bushes, because if you hit a bush, it'll stop, right? You'll lose that speed. It will start the calculation, because what happens is once you do your full sprint, it will take that number. So let's say you sprinted for like 2 kilometers or something. It will take that number and apply it to the 129% bonus, and will instantly drop you down to wherever you should be. So you can get like this free bonus points in leveling strength and endurance. And so I took that and I was like trying to come up with ways to really, take this to the next level, because I was playing with my buddies in Shoreline, and it kind of makes sense for that map. I mean, if you want to go to the resort and duke it out, it just makes sense. Like every spawn, even like the god spawn, you might as well just pop it, because you can just get to the rooms faster. So, I was like, how can I level strength? Because one of my goals for this wipe is to get max strength and like kind of compare from my level 1 account and level 50 account. So what I've been doing is there's these shotgun mags from Jaeger. And I don't know if you guys have seen them, but they're 5-round shotgun mags, and they weigh almost a whole kilogram. So I've been buying tea bags and slings, putting them in my bag, right? Insuring the bag, so ensure it's the mags. Because the old method was just shotgun shells. But, that's wasting rubles. You got to throw them out. We're going to get this back in insurance. So I go in Interchange. Nope. I got my backpack, got my rig, drum mag in, no mags, just like, empty slots everywhere. I loot everything, pop the SJ6, run, drop my bag, run. So I get strength, and then I get endurance, and then I'm out in like 7 minutes, right? And I'm just doing this over and over. My insurance is just full of these like tea bags and these shotgun shells, and it's just coming back, and it's constantly like I'm so like, this has got to be, this definitely probably not intended behavior that BSG wants to see, but to me it's the most efficient way, because I can literally, like, I've just debated like running in, killing a scav, and just running back out, because you don't want to get a run through, I guess. I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter. Like, there's so many ways you can do it, but kind of how I'm doing it is I want to make some money and also level strength. So I'll just loot a couple tech stores, shove a couple GPUs at my butt, this and that and the other. And in the last since we last spoke, Giga, I've been on this, and I think I've gone up like, oh man, dude, 5 levels probably. Like I've figured it out. A full sprint I can get about 9 points in. So
Wow.
if I do almost, what is that, 10 raids, we'll say like 12 raids a day, I can get 1 level in strength. So just
Like every day.
yeah, every day. So just gotta keep on
Pretty
going,
good.
dude. Yeah, it's pretty good. I don't really know. We'll see if it's worth it or not. I mean, we've talked about strength a little bit last swipe, and I'm super interested to see how it plays out. I don't know. I've been talking for a while, so let me pass it to Abney. What are your thoughts on skills and elite skills and elite perks? Because I know this has kind of been a topic within the Tarkov community for quite some time.
Yeah, man, skills and the elites are just they're weird. Some of them are
Mhm.
cool, some of them are OP, and I don't like. I do think it is something to work for. It's very grindy, and
Yeah.
right now I think with strength I've just been doing it pretty naturally, but it is something I focused on. Every raid I went into that I was actually using gear, I would, if I was at like 28 kilos, I would at least top it off with some shotgun slots or shotgun ammo slots so that I would get over that threshold, do my initial sprint, and then drop the rounds
Yeah.
off. And I'm at 26 strength. So, and I haven't played a lot recently because I've been so busy with like family stuff. I've been traveling to Tennessee a couple times last month. And so yeah, I think if I played consistently and did it a lot, I'd probably be similar strength as you, Church. But the wipe I did get to like 56. It was like my grind wipe. It's like before I made stuff and I just played. I got kappa that wipe as well. But
Nice.
I think I got really high strength and I really liked it. Like I loved how it felt. And
Mm.
when wipe actually hits, you feel like you can't do anything. You're so weak. You're so slow. It's just like, oh God, this is terrible. But as for the elites, there's a couple that really bother me, and I'm actually gonna be making a video of that's very similar of it. The perception. You guys know about the perception elite skill and
Mhm.
how your PMC literally gains better hearing the longer they live. So you basically like right now, mine's my perception's at like 17, I think 17 or something, maybe 19, and I can hear 15% further than a PMC that's at level 1. And I just find that absurd. And I don't know what max is. I really don't. But that means that, you're going to be hearing people so much further than other people that just started the game simply
Right.
because you played longer or, maybe looted more or whatever. But I just find it's a weird gameplay style where if you're hearing stuff first, you could ambush almost anybody as long as you have more experience than them. So I just think it's kind of a weird like the perception. If they just remove that buff, the hearing further, I
Mhm.
think perception skill, with the dot showing up for loot and stuff, I think that would be fine. But
So your
yeah.
problem with perception is not necessarily the elite level perk of the loot
Mm-mm.
proximity, more so just the incremental gains through essentially having hours versus a level 1, fresh out of the box. He's at the
Yeah.
rough roadblock by customs where it says welcome to Tarkov and you hear him a mile away. That's kind of your issue there.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but the older you get, do you feel like your hearing's getting better? I don't know. I don't think that's how it works. Firing guns all raid and for 300 or 300 raids, you think your hearing's gonna get better? Maybe not. So I think that's just a weird skill in general. As for max level strength, oh man, you literally only use it's only the weight of your backpack. So the items in your backpack, everything
Mhm.
else is negated. So it's pretty OP. I mean, you can do some fat boy raids for sure.
Yeah, I
And the
think
jump height.
yeah, I agree with you honestly. I think perception is one of those silly things that gives an advantage that's just it's not I don't know why it feels different for perception versus some of the other things, like being able to run further or whatever. I think it's probably because audio is so important, and it's that there's nobody knows quite what the perception number really means, and it's very hard to test, but it means that at some level you can hear somebody without them even being able to hear you at all. And I think it's that threshold there. It's not necessarily the volume or anything, but it's that threshold of hearing someone or not hearing somebody that really matters. Whereas if you're sprinting, it's like someone gets there slightly quicker than you did, but it's not quite the same gulf as like someone hears you and they stop, but you don't hear them, so you carry on.
Right.
And then they shoot you, and you're like, oh, how did the guy know I was there? And it's like, well, he heard you first because he's got level 40
Yeah.
perception. You've got level 5, and I think that's why it feels so rough. Because it's so important in Tarkov, and it's kind of thresholdy, which is kind of bad. I mean, it would be kind of interesting if they did with the strength thing. I wish that rather than giving all of the perk up, well, I say up front, but all of the perk in one lump at level 51, it'd be better, I think, if they did something more interesting, even maybe not necessarily a skill tree, but something where you get things as you go along, potentially. If you hit certain thresholds, so like 10, 20, 30, 40, you get something. And even if you're going to keep the final one as the same, then maybe it'd be the helmet's got no weight on it, or the gun has no weight. And so you get something as you go along, because then it would also mean that it's less impactful right at the end when you get all of it. It feels less busted. And then if it feels broken as you go along, then well, maybe the whole thing needs to be toned down. So I would quite like that, because so few people get to that max level, and yeah, it should be good, but at the same time, I do think it should be a little bit more scaled in some sense.
Yeah,
that would be kind of cool. I don't
like
know, like would a skill tree even work? Yeah, like a perks. Yeah, exactly. You choose this or choose that, but there's like a downside. I don't know.
Yeah,
That would be
like
really interesting if there was
I
like
like
pros and cons. Like either you lose something, or maybe you lose the other option. That could be like a cost. Yeah, that'd be really interesting. Like
that's like old school RPGs where
Yeah.
advantages can also be disadvantages. Yeah.
like
Yeah, 'cause I love those kind of things.
maybe you could like see better at night, but during the day you couldn't see as well. Like I don't know how they would make that work, but you know, it's things.
Blinded at daylight.
Yeah.
Vampire perk.
Yeah. Things like that would be really cool. So I kind of want to hear a couple of things. You know, when talking about perception, it sounded like the issue wasn't necessarily that you gain points or you gain percentage values when leveling. It's more so the value of perception, like the actual what the skill actually does, which is so valuable. And I, thinking about it, or you guys talking, it's like, well, how would you actually like account for that? You could crouch walk everywhere, but that's just not realistic or reasonable thing to ask. I think like there's gonna be times when you have to move from point A to point B, and you can't move at snail's pace, in my opinion. So there's that element, and then there's the element we're talking about strength, where I think what we're saying is that the elite, and feel free to interrupt me, that the elite perk is really where the value is at, and that there's not really, from what we're saying, there's not really an issue with the points going up one by one, but just having that perk unlock at level 51. Like for example, I'm not doing this ridiculous strength training to hit level 50 and stop. I'm doing it hit level 51. I want the perk, dude. I want to see what it feels like. So with that being said, and sort of like framing it, and then there's the last thing, which is like the philosophical outlook, is like, should players have these advantages built into the game due to grind mechanics or sinking in time? Like, is it fair? I don't I don't know. I mean, Tarkov is designed in a way where level 1 can meet a level 69 or whatever max level is in the same raid. There is no skill-based matchmaking that we know of. Did they talk about having some type of matchmaking?
Oh God, I hope not.
I don't think so.
Right.
That would
So
be
it's
terrible.
just yeah, but you have that RPG system where traditionally you would have like a level 1 zone, and like all the level 1 players are there, and then you have like the high level zone and all the high level players are there, but that's kind of like broken in Tarkov. So you sort of have like these two overlapping things going on, and how does it all play out in the grand scheme of things? I mean, they've nerfed what strength does and endurance does. back in the day when I got it illegitimately. I did the glitch. I just thought I would never reach that. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm never gonna reach that. And then I saw a YouTube video. I was like, okay, well, yeah, let me try this with my buddy. And dude, it was insane. It was insane back then. Like, of course, we're going from like probably like level 10, level 5 strength to max. You know, obviously it's gonna be insane. But just like what you could do, like it probably took me 2 full sprints to go from one interchange extract railway all the way to Emercom, and you could just like bunny hop. Like, it was insane back then. And so I know they nerfed it since then. But I guess with all that in mind, like, what do you guys think that what's like the best approach, I guess, you know, like how could they bring in these ideas into line, still keeping, because some people will say, just remove the skills, just remove the skills. And that's just like, we want to keep some of the RPG. And I think obviously BSG wants to keep that element. And I really like that element. So like, how can we make these two ideas work, you think?
I mean, like my quick thoughts on it is basically like
Yeah.
there's some skills that are just I think they're just they're too far the wrong way. There's some skills that no one really cares about, right? And in my opinion, Tarkov is at its best. Like Tarkov is an asymmetric game by its definition, and it is an unfair game by its definition. But usually, I like to keep that unfairness to gear and economics, not necessarily to things that are fundamental. So even the run speed thing, like I don't think anybody really thinks that like max endurance makes a big difference, but it's not game breaking and you can still play without it. Like the reason my perception feels so bad, was thinking about it while you were talking about why it feels terrible, because it just does. It feels really, really awful. And it's the audio equivalent as if they had a skill called seeing in the game, right? And the more you played, the greater the draw distance was. And new players just literally couldn't see you outside of 100 meters. And if you're a more experienced player that's been playing longer than you could, it's the audio equivalent of that. And that's why it feels so bad. And so I just think at the moment, the system, yes, it rewards grind. Some of the top level things are really, really OP, but they don't really matter because hardly anybody gets them. So it's kind of whatever. I mean, I actually don't really have that much of a problem with the skill system, really, because so few people get to super high level, and most of the time, does it really make a difference? You can kind of play around being low level. Like, there's ways to play around it with skill, but I want systems that promote players to be able to outplay other people to be the deciding factor, but then also the gear does have to be a deciding factor as well in some sense, right? It's just true. And so yeah, I don't know, I'd favor something that more gradually rewards players over time in an interesting way. And that's why I think that the idea of having maybe some kind of perk tree, I don't really know how that would even work, to be honest. You'd have to make it in a way that made sense, or maybe you'd have to work towards a particular perk, but going towards one would stop you getting another, and you do it naturally, but you decide on those things you wanted to work towards. I don't know, something like that, but something that means that players have to decide, because at the moment it just goes passively in the background. Like, yeah, you could cheese it, but that's also not intended. So right now the whole thing just feels kind of bad, and in some cases gives you huge advantages just for playing a ton, which is not necessarily like smart or clever or anything like that. You don't have to use the skills, you don't have to. It's like in a MOBA or whatever, some of the high level items, well, they have like actives that need to be used in a particular way to make them good, that kind of thing. It's like, there's not really any of that in EFT. It's just, you just better. And so there you go. And it's just kind of, it's not very interesting. It's not, I want to make it more interesting. It should be more interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just another thing about the perception, I was also thinking about the other side of that. So say I'm a high level player, I'm really high level, and my perception's maxed or whatever. As I'm going through this wipe, I'm a competitive gamer, and I've played a lot of Rainbow Six Siege, like way too much. And as you start playing these games, you get accustomed to the sound and how far steps are and where this sound's coming from. And, I know I can push this corner because this guy's about 5 meters away. As your skills going up, your perception of your own game is changing as you're playing. And it's just like, you're never learning exactly where somebody is. And I think that's another reason, just from a player standpoint, is you'll never actually know how far somebody is unless you're playing every single day all day, and you're like a streamer that plays 8 hours a day. That's going to be so gradual that it doesn't make a difference. But it's also not changing from one raid to another. You're not all of a sudden getting 10% hearing distance, but I still think that it's something that can be a little bit like annoying. You could never actually learn how far somebody is away, because then you have all the headphones and stuff like that. I know they all have the same distance, but there's so many variables that you never really get used to sound in this game, and I think that's a fundamental problem for something so competitive. And then in terms of the skills themselves, I think one of the biggest problems is with other RPGs, especially like single player RPGs. It's actually fun to level skills, and you actually want to push towards leveling those skills. In Tarkov, it's like, God, dude, I'm just gonna stack some crap in my backpack and go on a raid. I'm overweight. Okay, I got one little increment on strength. Awesome. It's not fun to do it. And I think a perk system or some sort of tree or something like that. Maybe every 5 levels you get to choose a small little perk or something like that. You could work towards that, and you could see that progression, and you can see the outcome. Whereas with Tarkov right now, it's like, yay, I got a little increment. Like, it's just it's not rewarding. It's not fun. So, I know they want to do some work. Nikita said that they want to do like a skill rework. So hopefully that's done in a way that's actually fun to level.
So, hopefully it doesn't require me to reload a Mosin over and over again rather than using bolt actions. Just saying.
Dude, I've never done that. I can't.
Really? I'm avid. I mean, as much as I hate it, I just can't imagine doing it naturally. I just feel like it just feels like I could continue doing other things, or I could just like block out a week and shoot scavs with bolt actions. Like, I just don't know.
Do we know how much one shot? How much one shot to a scav will give you on a bolt action? Because I feel like that's just as much as reloading like 25 times. Because that's what I did when I got kappa. I think I just went around and killed scavs with a Mosin, but I don't think I did the whole reload thing ever.
I don't
remember exactly how much.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. It does take a while. I think they maybe nerfed the reload thing. I'm not sure. I remember it being faster in the past because I've done it in the past, and this wipe, well, since they changed it away from the Mosins only for the Tarkov shooter quest line, then it made it a lot better, because it meant that I could do those quests, and then I was also using the 2-on-5, which I actually enjoy, rather than using the Mosin, which I didn't really enjoy. But even still, I did a little bit of the old reload shenanigans this wipe, but mostly I've done it properly. But I would say in previous wipes, my most used 7.62 54 round probably was T46M, and none of them got fired. They're all on the ground in customs somewhere.
Yep.
That skill is bad.
Have you guys gotten kappa?
No.
I've got it one wipe.
Before the 62. Oh, okay. One wipe.
I got it
before the 62 thing, the kappa's not even in the realm of reality anymore. So
yeah, I can't remember which one it was. I think it was.
Was it last wipe?
I mean, it definitely wasn't last wipe, and it was not the. I'd need to actually look at the timelines. I think it was the. Was it the 2020 wipe? I think it might have been the one. It was the wipe kind of at the start that was like straddled over the beginning of 2020. Basically, my chances of ever getting kappa ever again finished when my daughter was born in
That's fair.
in 2020. In 2020. So that was basically the end. The end of it was in October 2020. So I was just like, yep, that's it. I don't have enough time to get kappa anymore. That's fine. She'd have born in heaven. I'm never going to bother with that quest. So it was the wipe. It must have been the wipe before that. So it was the one at the start of 2020, or the end of 19 maybe. I don't remember now. But yeah, I did it that one time. But like these days, especially when they changed the leveling requirement on it, I was just like, oh, this is such a huge weight off my mind now. Now I don't even have to like pretend that I'm going for it.
Yeah.
It's funny just seeing all the people who do go for it and ending up doing. They've got all the tasks, they've got all the items, they've got all the stuff completed, and then they just grind in levels. And that's the thing that they still need to do. And the people who did it before they changed the level requirement, like, mad props to them for actually achieving that before they changed it. It was actually insane. But yeah, even where it is now, like it's a higher level than I've ever been in any wipe. So
Yeah.
it's it's not happening. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I think with anybody with a full-time career or anything that takes any normal life stuff, I don't think it's really feasible.
Yeah.
And that's fine, I guess. It's literally just 3 more slots, but I think it was just something to work for a lot of people, and now it's just not there. So there is really no like end game goal for me at least, and for a lot of people probably.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it at the time. I still wish that they'd either moved Kappa and put something else in its place, or kept Kappa where it was and put something else at the level 62, 70, blah, 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 like golden dog tag or something, just something different. Because having the progression timeline and then it finishes and then they've taken the end one and just shunted it and there's nothing else in its place. It just feels bad. And it was nice to have that goal to work towards, as you say, to complete all the quests and all that stuff, but do it in the way that you want to do it without then just having to grind labs for 2 months or something.
Right.
So I hope that they eventually do that, but I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't really matter, I suppose.
And I think they really did talk about adding some maybe some sort of prestige system or something like that, where you actually get to keep something, or you get to keep an armband, or they're definitely looking at that kind of stuff. I think it's just back of mind because they're building out maps and building out fundamental gameplay elements. So I think it's all coming, and the end should be pretty fun. So that's why we're here talking about it,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've talked about prestige system before. I think it would be actually really quite a good idea. I think because people kind of do it anyway because they reset their account or they start a hardcore account or whatever, something like that. But having an endless prestige that ticks up somewhere and gives you, I don't know, like you could do like tally it on the dog tag or just like some marker. Like people do all sorts of stuff for silly cosmetics. So even things that are just meaningless. Like I think the golden dog tag thing is a good idea. Or even I don't know, I mean, you have something that makes it so you could do it multiple times, and people would race to be the person to have like the most prestiges in one wipe and stuff. Like people would do that to be number one on that kind of virtual leaderboard. People love doing that stuff. So it'd be neat.
Kill 100 times to get the tracksuit, and that's pain. There's no way.
Crazy.
Did you see the video of the guy who did it? Yeah, someone's
Just
on
wipe.
Swipe.
Somebody did it.
Yeah. What's his name? Is he called It's Bobby or something? I'd need to check.
That's impressive. I know.
It's mental. He did it a bit ago as well.
Wow.
Let me see. I can't remember. Yeah, it was a video, and he has let me see. Trying to find it, but yeah, there was a video, and he had like all of them. Yeah, it was insane.
That's crazy.
They kind of have something like that. Not really like you reset and
I'm Bobby. Sorry. I'm Bobby. He did it. And he did it a month ago as well. Sorry, Church.
There you go. Dang. All right, someone sent me something that's got me really interested. They yeah, the armbands. There's certain quests you unlock, like the labs armbands. I mean, you only have it for this wipe, but they kind of have a little bit of that. Like there's I guess you get the alpha people have the alpha armband, which is really cool. And then there's like one which I guess is Kiba armband. A lot of people want that one. I forget what that's locked behind. So they're doing a little bit on that front, but I definitely agree with you guys that having something for the average, maybe slightly below average Tarkov player to work towards late wipe is a really good thing, because I don't think I don't know. We'll see what happens, but yeah.
It's the wipe.
Sorry if you guys hear that background noise. There's some ambulances, so I'm just gonna mute.
I can't actually hear anything. It sounds okay to me. I guess like on the topic that we talked about a little bit, I touched on near the beginning of like 5.56 and some of the weapons and that kind of thing. Like, what's been your experience so far with like the Scar L and the MDR versus the M4 and the way that they feel? This is more aimed at Abney. Did you do a video on this? I feel like you did a video on this.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what I did. I did a video on the Scar actually, and I quite like the Scar L. So the thing is, like when I started to shoot it, the whole thing with lower recoil, more controllable, like lower fire rate, sorry, is more controllable recoil and all that. So when I started a test between MDR, SCAR L, which both have 650 RPM, I realized that like the stats literally don't mean anything. At first, like when I made the video, I thought there was some correlation to stats across a gun, like across either like a type of gun or like at least all guns in general. And then I realized, especially a lot of the commenters were like, yeah, this, they don't correlate at all. The numbers mean nothing, which to me, I'm like, so I think I tested a SCAR, an M4 and an MDR all side by side. They all had 62 recoil and then some variation of horizontal recoil, with the SCAR having the worst stats out of all of them, but performing the best out of all of them. So I was like, it's like, how does this even work? And so that's when everybody was like, yeah, there's no correlation between the actual numbers. And so to me, I think that's such a fundamental flaw to the user. The user is going to go into this game, a brand new player, they may not look at stats that much, but somebody who's played a little bit, they may compare different guns with that number. And, I know that Church mentioned you guys wanted to talk about like hidden stats and stuff like that, but it's like one guy said that they are accounting for fire rate. We know that one for sure. But that also like weight of the gun, how long the gun is and stuff like that. I'm like, how is anybody ever supposed to learn what number is good? Like, you might as well just say recoil good, recoil bad, because it means nothing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they need to think of a way to add that number system with those other factors so that the player can look at a gun and know if it's good or not, rather than just have to test everything. Because as we know, testing is kind of hard in this game, besides just the firing range that has, blacked out backgrounds because all the back wall of the firing range is all shot up to hell, and you can't even test your own recoil sprays unless you use that one left side that's clear. Yeah. It's like, oh, you want to reset that? Oh, okay, go ahead and go into a raid and come back. So, it's just nobody's going to figure that out without doing extensive testing. So they need some kind of correlation between all guns that the numbers will match up,
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. I mean, there's some stats that it's a topic that comes up all the time about various things, about the weapons, about rounds or whatever, and BSG saying, oh, well, we want people to test stuff and experience it, try to figure things out themselves. But there's some level where if you didn't have offline mode or the shooting, I guess the shooting range kind of helps in some sense, but it's just difficult why you'd put those stats in the game that are then kind of misleading. And it's the same thing with the rounds. I think they're maybe open to putting the round information in the game now. They said they might do it, like the penetration and whatever, because it's such a fundamental thing. And you just don't really know. And even if you're a ballistics expert in real life, like the way that it interacts with Tarkov's armor system and stuff just doesn't necessarily correlate to real world experience. And so it's still a gamey system, so you need to know what the numbers are, because otherwise you're just guessing, and that's not interesting at all, really. Yeah. But the weapons thing's super fascinating, because I feel like in the past that it used to be closer. I don't know whether this is true or whether people just didn't really know as much back then, because people have amped up the testing, and people have done a lot more work in the last couple of years on the way that things have gone. But and I'm not sure whether these stats kind of in the background have kind of been tweaked more so that they're now more different, because I know that One Peg did a video recently as well about the various weapons and about 5.56. This is part of the bashing on the M4 stuff that kind of started in the first place. But it's true, right? The SCAR has very, very low horizontal recoil versus the M4, and you see it clearly when you're using it in the hideout, even if you're building guns with effectively the same stats. And there's something going on in the background for those weapons that mean that the control is just way, way higher, and it's not reflected in the numbers. And so it makes it very difficult for anybody to try and how do you expect somebody to because you want your player to be somebody like us that thinks about the game a lot and is trying to be smart about their choices and buying the things that are best bang for buck. It's an economic game as well, so you're trying to buy things that are the cheapest that you can get for the most effectiveness, really. And you want your players to be like that, but then to sort of almost mislead them with the information that is delivered to them is it doesn't feel great for people. And I think it's that thing of, well, the even the M4 is supposed to be this amazing gun in real life, and people use it all around the world, and then to make the Scar like so much better than the M4, not really for any. I mean, maybe there's a reason. Maybe they fired them and was just like, oh yeah, this thing's like really great on horizontal, but yeah, to not reflect that in the statistics is a little bit strange. I mean, yeah, some of these stats in the background. I mean, it's a tricky thing, and I think they're there to try to make the weapons feel a bit more unique and stuff. There's like, I think there's some stats. There's like there's some things floating around on Twitter about it, and there's like with the pistols, for example, they have really high recoil, but they also pull back to the center really quickly and stuff. And it sort of it explains the feel of the guns, like the way they feel. And that's why the pistols jump so much, but then they reset but that makes sense because they're really light, and so you can kind of see why they've programmed it that way and why some of the guns feel really great in EFT because when you're using those weapons, it does feel like you're using an AR. It does feel like you're using a big DMR that's heavy, or the Mark 18, which fires and is huge, versus a pistol which fires fast, but then it like obscures the sight picture or whatever. But yeah, it doesn't really do the players any favor trying to understand what's happening, and yeah, just figuring out the systems. It's not. It's bizarre.
Yeah. I honestly couldn't imagine like actually coding all that and all the different attachments. Like it's the only game that's ever done it, with so many different attachments and things that affect the recoil. So that's what I feel like that's something that maybe will come later. But I feel like that's one of the reasons they haven't got it down to a T is there are so many things that are affecting that recoil, and maybe maybe they don't have the final solution for the stats on this game, which I'm hoping it's more accurate in the end. But right now they're any of the numbers are pretty arbitrary. If you ask me, you just have to use the gun. Does it feel good? Do you like it? Yeah. I made the Scar L video, and at the time everybody was saying Scar's trash. And now it's like, now it's not trash, I guess. So I don't know. It's kind of what the top end people say and what the initial reactions to some of the big guys are. And I'm like, I like it. It's pretty nice. So, and it looks nice, that's one of the big things. So
you brought up an interesting question, if you will, Giga, when you said what was the reasoning behind it, right? And if we think about this, right, let's sort of just separate the two. Let's have the hidden stats on one side and then the actual in-game stats on one side. Well, let's assume that the intended goal was to have the Scar L perform better in terms of its recoil than like an M4, right? On average, because there's different mods and such. Then the choice to have it, because let's just those things are separated, but they're always going to be in the game. That's the thing. The choice to have it where you essentially say we're going to make the Scar L visible stats really bad, but then we're going to crank up these hidden stats to the 9s, right, to make it really good. And so these two kind of merge, and so the result is like, I don't know about you guys, but when I played, I was like, oh yeah, the new Scars, let's try them out. And I used them. I looked at them. I looked at stats, and I was like, oh, it's just kind of like, oh, and yeah, they're just like, okay, these are bad. These are like early game guns. I can't get this conclusion. And then we fast forward 2 months, and then all these findings and testings and videos come out, and it's like, what, we're not going to get an answer to this, but it's an interesting thing. Is like why they chose to do it that way, because it does sort of set the player up for, I don't know, like failure in some cases. Yeah, it just feels kind of deceitful. Like I feel like I could have been using this Scar L at the start of wipe. I don't know. It's just weird. It's a weird thing. And I know in the past they've said that this is how they wanted the game to be originally, was just you had to like discover the game, figure things out, and share it if you wanted to, knowledge is power type of thing. Like it was supposed to be very like closed off, and that's just not the case nowadays with the wiki and everything else that goes on. But yeah, I would love to know the answer to that question, but it's an interesting choice that they did. is what I'll say.
Yeah, I understand the vertical recoil because of fire rate making the gun, reset at a higher step or whatever. But like the horizontal, like the Scars horizontal is like 250 or something with that build that I compared the 3, and the MDR was like 170. The M4 was somewhere around the same, and those two were just jumping left, right, and the Scars just kind of sitting in the middle. So I was like, I don't know what would even affect the horizontal recoil. So I think that one's the most useless stat out of all of them. Vertical, yes, but horizontal, they don't match up at all. So
yeah, if you want to see something that's got like mad horizontal recoil on it, the ACP Vector is a wild animal when it comes to horizontal. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like it goes sideways as much as it goes up. It's nuts.
Gosh,
and with the fire rate too, it's just like a crazy power hose. Like it's mental because it's so fast firing too, but it's like jumping left, but it's so quick. It kind of averages out around the middle. It's kind of like a slow delay, slow release shotgun almost. You got this kind of cone, and all the bullets come out, but it's very very fast. Oh, it's weird. It's very very strange.
I haven't tested that vector yet. I usually use the 9mm one, but not this wipe. I haven't used the 45 ACP.
Yeah, so I was thinking about it because I thought, hey, maybe this thing's really good because the UMP everybody's absolutely loving, and I mean the stats on the ACP in general is pretty insane. I mean, we've talked about it before here, but I mean, if I just pull it up, I mean, even the standard one, and what's actually weird about ACP is that there's the flesh damage rounds before that, and then you use match FMJ, which is the second best, and ACP AP, and that's the best. And yeah, match was 76 and 25 versus ACP was 70 damage and 38 pen. Like 38 pen is good. It's good, right? It's BT, and it's slightly better than BT, slightly better than 56A1, but with 70 damage, it rips people. It really does. You don't need to hit them that many times before they die. And I was like, well, people are really loving the UMP with this ammo, and even with match, it's kind of scary. I got killed on the factory stairs because some dude just shot me like 5 times in the right arm, and I was dead. And I was like, wow, okay, this is completely nuts. But I thought, well, if it's good in the UMP, surely it's got to be good in this thing. But the combination of the fire rate and the horizontal recoil makes it kind of situational. It's not as good as I thought, and the magazine is just you tap the button and it's gone. And you're like, oh, all the rounds, 30 rounds, they're all gone. And so there is some level of sustainable fire that also makes sense. Like it's almost funny kind of thinking because I've thought about this argument before of it's in any shooting game you have this sort of RPM constant fire rate thing versus like burst damage kind of stuff. You normally get this more in like sci-fi games actually because sci-fi games are big on kind of like plasma cannon versus like laser. So in a laser has got constant damage over time that maybe does more damage if you hit them for 10 seconds in a row, but something that does all of its damage in one go and then has to reload and does all of its damage in one go again. There's like a different strategy that you need for both, right? Because you need to have continuous line of sight or whatever if you're hitting somebody constantly. Whereas if you just do like a huge burst, and that's sort of equivalent to, I guess, a really low rate of fire weapon like the UMP, because you have to hit them a bit more, you have to keep on target for longer versus something where you pop out and just shotgun them with an AP20 slug or something. And if you kind of take it to its like logical extreme, if you have a theoretical weapon that has an infinite fire rate, then the mag size actually doesn't really matter. It's just the collective. If you miss, you miss, and if you hit, you hit. And the vector is much more on that end of the spectrum where its fire rate is so high it's almost detrimental because you run out of bullets so quickly that if you weren't on target within the first 1 second, all the bullets are gone anyway. And do you need that? Is it important to have that extra time to kill? In some situations, yes, but in other situations, it ends up working against you. So it's a funny one. It's a difficult one, and it almost ends up working out that, in theory at least, I don't know. Tell me if this is crazy, right? Because this is just like my ramblings here. But you're almost better off using, in my opinion, the ACP Vector like the VPO 215 with APM ammo in it than a regular gun. because if you're using that bolty, you have to be round a corner, you fire once, and then you come back round and then you reload, right?
Yeah.
And the vector's got such high fire rate that the mag's gone so quickly. It's bordering on like all of the rounds are shot back to back, end to end, and then the mag's gone and you have to reload it, right? So the time to kill is extremely low, but you have these long periods where you can't fire. And it's almost interesting that you end up taking the fire rate so high, it ends up being equivalent to a bolt action weapon that you have to reload after every shot. I just found that sort of theoretically interesting. Anyway, I'm not really sure where I'm going with that, but
yeah, it's a situational gun, and it's kind of like a shotgun or a bolt action. You really have to play around your scenario and where you take it in. So like I think it would be a good place for something like Resort or something where you're close range, but not, the hallways would be an issue, like hallway end to end, but you could ambush people with it and stuff like that. And with the 33 round mag, like you said, it's going to be gone in a blink. So with the other vector, you have the 50 round drum where it's a little bit more versatile, but the ammo's a little bit harder to get nowadays. So yeah, it's definitely, I can see what you're saying though. It's like if they ever did add a bigger drum to that vector, maybe it would come out of that category where it's a little less situational. You have right now, I think the mag is good enough for to kill one person, maybe another person if you're hitting everything. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, so I went on factory with it and I died to someone using the UMP. So I was like, really? Like, no, this is not fair. This is not how this is supposed to work. But an equivalent situation was when I died to, and you're going to laugh at this, but I died to a hatchling using the MP7. The hatchling did not kill me. I died because of him, because I rushed his spawn and shot him in the back of forklifts. But then the 3 scavs ran in, and I didn't have enough bullets. I shot one, half like the final couple of rounds into the second scav, but didn't kill him. The third scav runs in. I try to reload, and I just get shotgun pinned by like 2 guys. I was like, what? So the hatchling died, and then I got killed because of his tagged and cursed status, which was really irritating. But there's a sort of similar situation. You've got a 30 rounder in the MP7. It's 950 RPM. The bullets are gone super, super quick. If you're not careful with it, they really do just disappear. And you want to be spraying down individuals. It's a 1v1 weapon. It's not a solo V world kind of weapon. You want to be fighting one person at a time. You want to unload a 30 rounder into them as fast as you physically can, kill them with a super time to kill, and then be out of there or reloading for the next person. You don't want to be fighting multiple people with it at all. So yeah, 3 scavs and a hatchling is all it takes to get you taken down by the force of numbers. So
So there was a spreadsheet passed around on Twitter, and it essentially has some of those hidden stats on all the weapons, and I just want to bring it up because I want to talk about my adventures on it. And so I looked at the data and I try to understand what it means, and it doesn't really mean much because you're what's 269 horizontal mean, when in game, and you know what I mean? It's like, how do you compare it? So it really doesn't mean much, but I'm just comparing between other guns essentially. And one of the ones that caught my eye was the SKS, because apparently it has a really low stat on, I think, the angle of the recoil, similar to the Scar L, where it sort of has this low angle stat where it doesn't kick left and right a lot. So anyways, I'm doing this strength chaining on Interchange, right? I've taken the backpackless extract. I'm just trying to be in and out as quick as possible, but I want a gun that's like cheap, cost effective. So I looked at the AKS. I was like, how can I make this thing work? Because it has such a, I tested it in the range, in the hideout range, and it actually like performs pretty well. I didn't realize that this gun's actually really good. I mean, I know people preached about it, but I was more on the AK, the VPO 136, the single fire AK. I was like, SKS, let me get extra mags. But now I'm thinking with this hidden stat thing going on, that maybe you guys were onto something all along. But anyways, I got this horrid looking build, and it's an SKS, right? Not the OP SKS, SKS. Got the fancy stock on it, the RK2 grip, the maximum recoil buttstock, And get this, for the sight, there's a little front mount. It has a laser. Hip fire only SKS, 73 drum round mag, BP on top, PS on bottom. Dudes, I'm telling you, I wish I had clips right now I could throw on the screen. This thing is insane, dude. It's insane. Like I'm trying to convince my friend to use it, but he's like, he was watching me. He was just like, okay, maybe you're right. Like your church, you're not completely insane, but it's just not for me. I can't do the single fire thing. But I'm telling you guys, it's so insane. The laser, not the little laser, but the laserness of the gun shooting. Like I've only died to one PMC where we're finding each other. No, two today. But out of like 10 firefights, it just shreds people, and it's so insane because it's ridiculous because you literally can't ADS. You just see the laser where the iron sight would be, but it's so insane, and I don't know. It's like I encourage you to try it, but it's more of a statement on how these hidden stats have really like piqued my interest, and so now I'm like trying these new wonky things. Like I don't know, it's maybe this is the reason why they didn't want this to be in the game open, I guess, because it would sort of lead to these. They probably did not intend for me to put a laser on my SKS and never ADS and just hit fire, machine gun, mouse one as fast as possible, and they probably didn't intend for that. But I don't know. If you want to find the spreadsheet, it's out there. Is all I'll say. You can find it, but it's yeah. I don't know. It's so crazy, man.
What other hidden stats did they mention on that spreadsheet?
So it actually just got updated recently. I was actually I'm looking at it right now. So I'll just read the different categories. Okay, so we have dispersion, which is the horizontal spread. This number shows the possible dispersion angle of the recoil vector. So these are typically in like 5, so like 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Then there's convergence, which is the automatic auto control stat. The amount affects the gun. I can't read. The amount affects the speed of the gun, returns to standard position after a shot. So it's essentially the I think of it as like a multiplier to the PMC RPG auto recoil correction. So it has a really high number, a really high value. Then it gets then your PMC auto corrects a lot quicker, a lot more aggressively, I guess. And then recently they just added angle, which I don't know what that means. I assume it has to do with perhaps the left right horizontal thing, and then camera recoil, which is that effect where your center of your screen goes down as you fire. So yeah,
That's a tough one right there.
that is a tough one.
SA-58 Saiga, just like
Yes,
looking at
Saiga.
the sky.
Saiga's
man.
rough. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. I actually haven't seen that list.
Yeah,
but people had been talking about the hidden stats on some of the gun videos I did, and I'm like, well, I don't know about these stats, so it's news to me. You can feel that, but I didn't know about
exactly.
them.
This sort of harks back to what I was saying about the pistols. Like, I think if you look through some of these things that have been like circulated around, it's like the pistols have like the really, really high auto control stat, right? And so it's like it's exactly that. It's like super recoil, but then like comes back real quick. So it feels like you can fire fast with them, even though they jump loads. It's like part of the part of the feel they tried to put in, which Church has managed to gamify and create this thing. I just couldn't help but laugh thinking about you using this build. Like I've got it. I can imagine in my head what it looks like, and I just can't take you seriously when you're talking about it. I'm just thinking about you ADSing it, and it's just like the back of like. I wasn't even thinking about the regular one. I was thinking about I can't even remember what it's called now. You know the tan kind of like optical device. It's just got like,
it's
and you just
one.
see like the back of that. And it is that one. Oh my god, dude! I just like I was like, how do I take you seriously? This is just crazy. I'll have to look up that myself.
this type of stuff is just like right up my alley. Like I'm just such a nerd when it comes to this stuff. I'm just like, how can I like take these systems and just like gamify and make the most min-max thing? And yeah, it's like right up my freaking alleys.
So what do you do with ranged people? Do you just run
hit
around
fire.
and take it? How could you even see the laser from that far? Like if they're like actually far.
It is interchange and it is a red laser,
Oh,
so it kind of works out actually. But yeah, if they're like that far, like dude, the farthest I shot was probably, the medical Emercom building. I was like right outside of that, and he was like kind of near the escalators that goes up to like the campfire thing. And I hit him like I got 6 hit counts. I didn't kill him, but I honestly I think my mistake was not Tower says long range. It was probably like 25 meters. Like I honestly
quite
don't
a
know.
lot.
Yeah,
Quite a
but
lot.
yeah, it's dude, it's so good. Like I love it. I love it so
Would you take it to
much.
factory though? Would you take it to factory?
Oh
This is the
yeah.
question.
Yeah,
You
for
would?
sure. For sure.
Really?
Because here's the thing, like I was saying with that scenario, I messed up in single tapping. I should have just fired really fast because the recoils, it's only going to go up. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to go left or right. So like it doesn't matter if I'm going to get consistent shots. Like if, okay, for example, if the recoil was going very vertical, like a very V shape, then single fire would make a lot more sense because if I fire too fast, then I'm going to get a lot of V's that sort of like spread out, right?
Yeah,
But
you fire
since
once and then you fire again off to the right or the left. Yeah.
exactly, whereas if it's going to go straight up, I can easily account for that and just pull down. So what I should have done instead of single tap, I should have just like fast as I could, like, and it just would have been a line, a capital I or just a regular I, just flying towards them. And,
yeah, because it's weird with semi-autos. Like the faster you shoot, visually it looks like you're going to be hitting higher, but the bullets are still hitting almost center mass when you're testing semi-auto guns. And it's kind of like that with shotguns and stuff like that. You kind of just have to let it fly, and visually it looks like you're not hitting on point because the reticle's up in the air from the recoil, but you're actually hitting still center mass. And it's almost like it has the same kind of function as full auto, whereas like the longer you fire, the more it kind of the recoil kind of
right,
like the center of this the target or whatever. So it's didn't Airwing do a video with pistols recently? How so like it's still the same thing. So they're shooting, it doesn't look like you're hitting, but they're all the recoil's so strained with semi-auto. I don't know.
It's very weird. Yeah. I mean, I had a theory about that, which is again to do with this, which is the fact that because pistols have such a high and hard, strong return to center, that it potentially overshoots slightly. And that's the reason that it ends up going low, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm still, I've not done any formal testing on it, but I'm still a firm believer that semi-auto uses the same recoil profile as full auto. So you have recoil at the beginning and then it comes down and settles. Because if you fire it quite quickly, the first couple of rounds are always a bit rough and then it settles down again. And I've been looking at some of the really good 308 weapons recently. I've been looking at the SR25, I've been looking at M1A, and you make them down, you put them down to, I mean, the M1A gets to the disgusting level. It's like 38 or something at full. But even that, it jumps to the beginning and then it's still laser beaming, but you can see that pattern still in occurrence in the semi-auto. Whether it's different to the full auto one, I don't know, but it looks very and feels very similar to me. So I kind of agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I love 308 and the semi-autos for them. The real issue I have with 308 is no more SA58. It's just so unusable.
Tell me about
Have you guys tried builds with that this wipe?
I know Church was messing around with that, but
sort of
didn't really end up finding like the only way to do it is you just do that again. It's the hip fire, zero ergonomics, full recoil, going around corners just like Arnold Schwarzenegger with a minigun. Just go around pre-firing everybody with M80 and a drum.
Yeah, even after Nikita's buffs, like his random buffs on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
So, anything else, Giga? Any other topics you want to talk about?
There was something else, but I think actually I'm probably just going to park it because it was probably
Yeah.
it was the least interesting of the things that I wanted to talk about. But we could talk about it another time.
Sure.
It's no biggie. Because otherwise I think we're at risk of running on. Otherwise, if we carry on.
Yeah,
So,
fair enough.
so no, I'm good. I think.
Yeah. Dude, Abney, thanks for coming on, man. I found your channel and I really liked your editing, your style, and your thumbnails. And it's. I was actually curious if you did have like you've done a different YouTube channel in the past before, but hearing you have background experience, it makes sense that you're so good at what you do. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate you bringing me on. Like I said, this is my first time collaborating with any Tarkov guys, so it's been fun. I appreciate that.
Excellent. Yeah, no, thanks for coming. It's been a blast. It's so good to speak to other creators and get people on here and stuff. So yeah, wish you all the best of success. You deserve it. You make good content.
Thank you. You guys as well.
Cool.
All right.
With that, guys, we'll wrap it up and we'll catch you next week.
See you later.
Take it easy, guys.